College life was supposed to be about making friends and having fun, but for Maya, it felt more like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces were missing. She was in her second year at the university, studying physics because she loved understanding how things worked. But there was one thing in her life that she couldn't quite figure out. His name was Alex, and he was the most unusual person she had ever met. Maya first noticed Alex during her advanced physics class. While everyone else sat in groups, chatting and laughing before the professor arrived, Alex always chose the same seat in the back corner. He would sit there quietly with his notebook open and his pen ready, watching everyone with curious eyes. It was like he was studying the other students instead of preparing for class. What made Alex even more interesting was how he handled the coursework. The professor would explain complex theories that made most students scratch their heads in confusion, but Alex would just nod slightly, as if everything made perfect sense to him. He never raised his hand to ask questions, but Maya could tell from his expression that he understood everything better than anyone else in the room. For weeks, Maya found herself stealing glances at Alex during class. It was something different about him that she couldn't put her finger on. He dressed normally, looked like any other college student, but there was an energy around him that felt unusual. When he walked, it was with careful, measured steps. When he spoke to professors, his voice was soft and polite. But there was something formal about the way he chose his words. The turning point came when Maya was struggling with a particularly difficult homework assignment about quantum mechanics. She had spent hours in the library, surrounded by textbooks and notes, but the concepts just wouldn't click. She was getting frustrated, erasing and rewriting the same equations over and over again. That's when Alex appeared beside her table. "Excuse me?" he said in his quiet voice. "I noticed you've been working on the quantum mechanics problems. Would you like some help?" Maya looked up, surprised. This was the first time Alex had ever spoken to her directly. His eyes were kind, but there was an intensity in them that made her feel like he could see right through her. "I've been stuck on this for hours," she admitted, feeling a bit embarrassed. "I just don't understand how these particles can be in two places at once." Alex pulled out the chair next to her and sat down. He asked, pointing to her notebook. As he began explaining the concepts, Maya realized that Alex had a completely unique way of teaching. Instead of using the standard explanations from textbooks, he described quantum mechanics like he was talking about something he had personally experienced. He used analogies that seemed to come from somewhere else entirely, talking about reality as if it were much more flexible than most people believed. "Think of it this way," Alex said, his voice taking on an almost dreamy quality. "Imagine you're looking at a distant star. From where you're sitting, it appears to be just a tiny point of light. But if you could travel there, you'd discover it's actually a massive ball of burning gas. The particle isn't really in two places at once. It's just that our way of looking at it is limited by our perspective." Maya stared at him. "That's actually really helpful. But how do you think of these examples? They're not like anything I've heard in class." Alex paused, and for a moment he looked uncomfortable. "I guess I just think about things differently than most people do." From that day forward, Maya and Alex began spending more time together. They would meet in the library to study, and Alex would help her understand the more challenging concepts. But the more time she spent with him, the more she noticed things that didn't quite add up. Alex never seemed to eat the food from the cafeteria. While Maya and other students would grab pizza or burgers, Alex always brought his own lunch in a plain brown bag. The food looked normal enough, but it smelled different. When Maya asked about it, Alex would just say that he had specific dietary needs and change the subject. There were other strange things too. Alex seemed to know things before they happened. The time he told Maya to bring an umbrella to campus on a perfectly sunny day, and then it started raining unexpectedly in the afternoon. Or when he mentioned that Professor Johnson would be canceling Friday's class, and sure enough, the cancellation email arrived the next morning. The most puzzling thing was how Alex reacted to everyday social situations. He would watch other students with fascination, as if he were observing some interesting scientific experiment. When people made jokes, he would pause for a moment before laughing, like he was processing why something was supposed to be funny. He was always polite and kind, but there was something about his behavior that felt like he was following a script rather than acting naturally. Maya found herself becoming more and more curious about Alex's background. When she asked where he was from, he would give vague answers like up north or a small town you'd probably haven't heard of. When she asked about his family, he would say he lived with his mother and then quickly change the subject to something else. Despite all the mysteries surrounding Alex, Maya genuinely enjoyed his company. He was one of the most honest people she had ever met, though sometimes his honesty was almost shocking in its directness. He would make observations about people and situations that were completely accurate, but that most people would never say out loud. "You're worried about the tests next week?" he said to her one afternoon as they walked across campus. Maya stopped walking. "How did you know that?" "I didn't say anything about being worried." Alex looked at her with those intense eyes. "Your body language changed when Professor Williams mentioned the test date. Your shoulders tensed up, and you started chewing on your pen. It's obvious you're concerned about it."
Most people wouldn't notice things like that," Maya said, feeling
a bit unsettled. "Most people don't pay attention to details the way I do," Alex replied simply. As the weeks went by, Maya realized that her friendship with Alex was unlike any relationship she had ever had. He was genuinely interested in her thoughts and opinions, but he also seemed to be studying her in a way that made her feel both special and slightly uncomfortable. It was as if he were trying to understand not just what she was saying, but how human beings in general thought and felt. The more time they spent together, the more Maya began to suspect that there was much more to Alex than met the eye. He was hiding something big, something that explained all the little oddities she had noticed. But what could it be? And more importantly, why did she feel like she was getting closer to discovering a secret that might change everything she thought she knew about her new friend? Little did Maya know that her questions were about to be answered in ways she never could have imagined. As their friendship grew stronger, Maya started noticing even more peculiar things about Alex. It was like every week brought a new mystery that made her question what she really knew about her friend. The first thing that really caught her attention was Alex's eating habits. During their study sessions in the student center, Maya would grab snacks from the vending machine or buy sandwiches from the campus cafe. But Alex never touched any of the regular food. He would politely decline when she offered to share her chips or cookies, always saying he wasn't hungry. One day Maya decided to test this theory. She had noticed that Alex always brought his lunch in the same brown paper bag, and she was curious about what was inside. When Alex stepped away to use the restroom, she couldn't help but peek at his meal. What she saw confused her even more. The food looked normal at first glance, but something was off. The sandwich bread had a slightly different texture than anything she had seen before, and the vegetables inside had colors that seemed too vibrant to be natural. There was also a small container with what looked like soup, but it had a shimmer to it that regular soup definitely didn't have. When Alex returned, Maya tried to act casual. "Your lunch looks interesting," she said, hoping he would explain. Alex glanced at his food and then back at her. "My mother makes it for me. She's very particular about nutrition." "Does she own a health food store or something?" Maya asked, trying to understand where someone would even buy ingredients like that. "She's a researcher," Alex said quickly. "She studies food and nutrition. She likes to experiment with different recipes." Maya nodded, but she could tell there was more to the story. Alex had that same uncomfortable expression he got whenever she asked personal questions about his life outside of school. The second strange thing Maya noticed was Alex's uncanny ability to predict things. At first she thought it was just coincidence, but it kept happening over and over again, like the time they were walking to class together. And Alex suddenly stopped in front of the science building. "We should take the long way around today," he said, looking at the main entrance. "Why?" "This is the fastest route," Maya replied, checking her watch. They were already running a few minutes late. "Trust me," Alex said, gently guiding her toward the side entrance. As they walked around the building, Maya heard shouting and commotion coming from the main entrance. When they looked back, they saw that a water pipe had burst, flooding the entire front lobby. Students were scrambling to avoid the water, and maintenance workers were rushing to fix the problem. How did you know that was going to happen? Maya asked, staring at Alex in amazement. Alex shrugged. I just had a feeling something wasn't right with the building today. This kind of thing happened at least once a week. Alex would suggest they study in a different part of the library, and then the air conditioning would break in their usual spot. He would recommend that Maya bring a jacket to class, and then the professor would decide to open all the windows because the heating system was malfunctioning. The most impressive example was when Alex told Maya that Professor Chen would be announcing a surprise quiz the next day. But Alex insisted she should study the chapter on electromagnetic fields just in case. Sure enough. The next day, Professor Chen walked into class with a stack of papers. I hope everyone did the reading, he said with a smile. We're having a little quiz on electromagnetic fields today. Maya stared at Alex in shock. He just smiled and pulled out his pencil like nothing unusual had happened. After class, Maya cornered Alex in the hallway. Okay, you have to tell me how. You knew about that quiz? Do you overhear Professor Chen talking to another teacher? Did you see the quiz papers somewhere? Alex looked uncomfortable. I just pay attention to patterns, he said. Professor Chen always gives quizzes when he thinks students aren't keeping up with the reading. But you were so specific about the topic, Maya pressed. You knew it would be about electromagnetic fields. Lucky guess, Alex said, but Maya could tell he was being evasive. As the semester progressed, Maya found herself studying Alex as much as she studied her textbooks. She started keeping a mental list of all the unusual things about him. The way he never seemed surprised by anything. The way he watched other students like he was trying to figure out how they worked. The way he always knew exactly what to say. To make her feel better when she was stressed about school, the strangest thing of all was how Alex seemed to know things about Maya that she had never told him. Like when she was feeling homesick but trying to hide it, Alex would casually mention something about family bonds and how important it was to stay connected to the people you love. Or when she was worried about choosing a major, Alex would start conversations about following your passion and not being afraid to explore new possibilities. Sometimes I feel like you can read my mind, Maya told him one evening as they walked back to the dorms after a late study session. Alex stopped walking and looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Maybe I just understand you better than you think, said quietly. There was something in his voice that made Maya feel like he was trying to tell her something important. But she couldn't figure out what it was. The turning point came on a Thursday evening in late October. Maya and Alex were sitting in their usual spot in the library when Alex suddenly became fidgety. He kept glancing at his phone and looking around the room like he was expecting someone to appear. Is everything okay? Maya asked, noticing that Alex seemed more nervous than she had ever seen him. Alex took a deep breath and closed his textbook. Maya, I need to ask you something, and I hope you'll say yes. Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Was Alex about to ask her on a date? They had been friends for months, and she had sometimes wondered if there might be something more between them. My mother, Alex continued. She's been asking about you. Maya blinked. That wasn't what she had been expecting. She's been asking about me? Why? I've mentioned you to her a few times, Alex said, his voice careful and measured. I've told her about our friendship, about how smart you are, about how you help me understand things about about college life. And Maya was touched that Alex had talked about her to his mother. She was also curious about why his mother would be interested in hearing about his college friends. She would like to meet you, Alex said, and Maya could see that he was choosing his words very carefully. She's invited you to dinner this Saturday evening. Maya was surprised. She wants to meet me. We've only been friends for a few months. Mother is very interested in the people who are important to me, Alex said. And you're important to me, Maya? More important than you might realize. There was something in Alex's tone that made Maya pay closer attention. This wasn't just a casual dinner invitation. There was weight behind it, like this meeting meant something significant. I'd love to meet your mother, Maya said, and she meant it. She had been curious about Alex's family for weeks, and this might be her chance to understand more about her mysterious friend. Alex smiled, but Maya noticed that he still looked nervous. There are a few things I should tell you about the dinner, he said. First, my mother can be quite intense. She's a scientist, and she has a very analytical way of looking at things. She might ask you questions that seem personal or unusual. Maya nodded. I can handle that, Second Alex continued. Our house is a bit isolated. It's about 30 minutes outside of town, and GPS doesn't work very well out there. Write down detailed directions for you. That's fine, Maya said, though she was curious about why anyone would live so far from civilization. And third, Alex said, his voice dropping to almost a whisper, I need you to promise me something.
Oh.
No matter what happens during dinner, no matter what my mother says or asks, please remember that our friendship is real. Whatever you learn about me or my family, please don't let it change how you feel about our connection. Maya stared at Alex, feeling a chill run down her spine. What kind of family dinner required that sort of warning? What was Alex so afraid she might discover? Alex, she said slowly, what exactly am I walking into? Alex looked at her with those intense eyes, and for a moment, Maya felt like he was trying to communicate something that he couldn't say out loud. Just promise me, he said quietly. Promise me you'll remember that some things are more complicated than they first appear. Maya nodded, though she wasn't sure what she was agreeing to. All she knew was that Saturday evening was going to change everything. Saturday evening arrived faster than Maya had expected, and she found herself driving down winding country roads with Alex's handwritten directions on the passenger seat. The further she drove from campus, the more isolated the landscape became. What started as suburban neighborhoods gradually gave way to empty fields and dense forests. Maya had to admit she was nervous. Alex's warnings from earlier in the week kept echoing in her mind. What kind of family dinner required promises about not letting new information change their friendship? And why did Alex seem so worried about what she might discover? As she followed the directions, Maya noticed that her phone's GPS signal had completely disappeared. She was entirely dependent on Alex's careful handwriting, which included specific landmarks like turn left at the large oak tree with the split trunk, continue straight past the old red barn. It felt like she was being guided to a location that didn't officially exist on any map. After what felt like an hour of driving, Maya finally spotted the house. Her first thought was that it looked completely out of place in the rural wilderness. While everything else around here was old farms and weathered barns, Alex's home was strikingly modern. The building was sleek and angular, with large windows that seemed to stretch from floor to ceiling.
Right.
It looked like something that belonged in a city, not hidden away in the middle of nowhere. As Maya parked her car in the circular driveway, she noticed how perfectly maintained everything was. The lawn was cut with mathematical precision. The landscaping looked like it had been designed by someone with an extremely organized mind. There wasn't a single weed or out-of-place stone anywhere. Before she could even knock, the front door opened. A woman who was clearly Alex's mother stood in the doorway, and Maya immediately understood where Alex got his intense eyes and careful way of moving. Dr. Elena Reeves was tall and elegant, the same pale complexion as her son. But there was something about her presence that made Maya feel like she was meeting someone very important. You must be Maya, Dr. Reeves said, extending her hand for a formal handshake. Melina, Alex has told me so much about you. Maya shook her hand and was surprised by how cold Elena's skin felt, even though the evening was warm. It's nice to finally meet you, Dr. Reeves. Alex mentioned that you're a researcher. Lena smiled, but it was the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Please, call me Alina. And yes, I do research. I study behavior patterns and cultural adaptation. Come in, please. As Maya stepped inside the house, she felt like she was entering a completely different world. The interior was even more unusual than the exterior. Everything was white, silver, or pale gray, giving the space a clean but somehow cold feeling. The furniture looked expensive and modern, but it didn't seem designed for comfort. It was more like furniture that belonged in a museum or a laboratory. What struck Maya most was what the house didn't have. There were no family photos on the walls, no personal mementos on the shelves, and no signs of the normal miscellaneous that comes with actually living in a space. Instead, the walls were decorated with abstract art that seemed to show mathematical patterns and geometric shapes. Alex appeared from what Maya assumed was the kitchen. wearing a nice button-down shirt that made him look more formal than she had ever seen him. "Maya, I'm glad you made it here safely. The roads can be confusing." "Your directions were perfect," Maya said, though she noticed that Alex seemed even more nervous than he had been at school. Alina led them into a dining room, where the table was set with dishes and silverware that looked like they came from an expensive restaurant. Everything was positioned with perfect symmetry, as if someone had used a ruler to measure the exact placement of each item. "I hope you don't mind that I prepared something special," Alina said as she brought out the first course. "I enjoy cooking foods from different cultures and regions." Maya looked at the plate Alina placed in front of her and felt a familiar confusion. Just like Alex's lunches, the food looked almost normal, but something about it was different. Vegetables had colors that seemed more vibrant than anything she had seen in a regular grocery store, and the sauce had a shimmer to it that caught the light in an unusual way. "This looks amazing," Maya said politely, taking a small bite. To her surprise, it tasted incredible. The flavors were complex and interesting, unlike anything she had ever experienced. "I'm glad you like it," Alina said, settling into her chair. Across from Maya, "I believe food should be both nourishing and intellectually stimulating." As they ate, Alina began asking Maya questions about her life. At first, the questions seemed normal enough. Where was she from? What was she studying? What did her parents do for work? But gradually the questions became more personal and specific. "Me about your family history," Alina said, cutting her food with precise movements. "Are there any unusual traits that run in your family? Anyone with exceptional abilities or talents?" Maya paused, unsure how to answer. "I don't think so. We're pretty ordinary people." Alina's eyes brightened with interest. "What about dreams? Do you have vivid dreams or recurring nightmares?" Maya felt uncomfortable. Why would Alex's mother be asking about her dreams? "Sometimes I have strange dreams," she admitted, "but doesn't everyone?" "What kind of strange dreams?" Alina pressed, leaning forward slightly. Maya glanced at Alex, who was staring at his plate and avoiding eye contact. She got the feeling that this conversation was going exactly the way Alina had planned it. "Well," Maya said slowly, "since I was little, I've had this recurring dream about flying, but not like in an airplane. I'm flying over landscapes that don't look like anywhere on Earth. The plants are different colors, and there are two suns in the sky." Alina and Alex exchanged a look that Maya didn't understand, but she could tell that her answer had been significant in some way. "How interesting," Alina said, her voice carefully neutral. "And when you wake up from these dreams, how do you feel?" "Homesick," Maya said without thinking. Then she stopped, surprised by her own answer. "That's weird. I never really thought about it before, but I always wake up feeling homesick for a place I've never been." Alina nodded as if Maya had just confirmed something important. "And how do you feel about learning? Do you find that you understand concepts quickly, especially in science?" Maya was getting more confused by the minute. "I guess so. Alex has been helping me with physics, and sometimes I feel like I understand things before he even finishes explaining them. Almost like the information was already there, waiting for someone to unlock it," Lena suggested. Maya stared at her. That was exactly how it felt. But she had never been able to put it into words before. The rest of dinner continued in this strange pattern. Alina would ask seemingly innocent questions, Maya would answer honestly, and then Alina and Alex would exchange meaningful looks. Maya began to feel like she was taking some kind of test that she didn't understand, as Alina served dessert, which was some kind of fruit that Maya had definitely never seen before. She decided to ask her own questions. "Alina, what exactly do you research? Alex mentioned that you study behavior and cultural adaptation, but what does that mean specifically?" Alina paused, considering her words carefully. "I study how different groups adapt to new environments, how they maintain their original identity while learning to function in unfamiliar surroundings." "Like immigrants adapting to a new country?" Maya asked. "Something like that," Alina said with another one of her mysterious smiles. Maya looked around the house again, taking in all the details that had been bothering her since she arrived. The perfect cleanliness, the lack of personal items, the furniture that looked functional rather than comfortable, the food that tasted amazing but looked unlike anything she could buy in a regular store. Alina, Maya said slowly, where exactly are you and Alex from? Alina set down her fork and looked directly into Maya's eyes. That's a very good question, Maya, and I think it's time we gave you an honest answer. Alex finally looked up from his plate, and Maya could see something that looked like both relief and fear in his expression. But first, Alina continued, I need to ask you something important. Are you ready to learn something about yourself that might change how you see the world? Maya felt her heart start beating faster. What do you mean? Something about myself? Alina smiled, and this time it looked genuine. My dear Maya, you have no idea how special you really are. Maya looked back and forth between Alina and Alex, realizing that this dinner was about to become something much more significant than she had ever imagined. Whatever Alina was about to tell her, Maya had the feeling that her normal, ordinary life was about to end forever. The dining room fell completely silent. Maya could hear her own heartbeat as Alina's words hung in the air. You have no idea how special you really are. What did that even mean? Maya looked at Alex, hoping for some kind of explanation, but he was staring at his hands with an expression that looked like guilt mixed with fear. I don't understand, Maya said, her voice coming out smaller than she intended. What are you talking about? I'm just a regular college student. Alina leaned back in her chair, studying Maya with those intense eyes. Let me ask you something, Maya. Have you ever felt like you don't quite belong here? Like you're searching for something but you don't know what it is? Maya felt a chill run down her spine. How could Alina know about feelings that Maya had never shared with anyone? Ever since she was a child, Maya had felt different from other people. Not in an obvious way, but like there was something inside her that was waiting to wake up. Sometimes, Maya admitted quietly. And those dreams you mentioned, Alina continued, the ones where you're flying over alien landscapes. You said you wake up feeling homesick for a place you've never been. Don't you find that curious? Maya's hands were starting to shake. Everyone has weird dreams sometimes. Alina shook her head. Not like yours. Your dreams aren't random images created by your sleeping mind, or memories, Maya. Genetic memories passed down through your bloodline. That's impossible, Maya said. But even as she spoke the words, something deep inside her whispered that maybe it wasn't impossible at all. Alex finally looked up, and Maya could see tears forming in his eyes. Maya, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't know how. Tell me what? Maya demanded, feeling panic rising in her chest. Alina reached across the table and gently took Maya's hand. Her skin was still cold, but her touch was surprisingly comforting. Maya, what I'm about to tell you will sound unbelievable, but I need you to listen with an open mind. Can you do that for me? Maya nodded, though she wasn't sure she was ready to hear whatever Alina was about to say. My son and I, Alina began. Slowly, we're not entirely human. We come from a place very far from Earth. My people have been studying your planet for many generations, trying to understand human culture and behavior. Maya stared at Alina, waiting for the punchline. This had to be some kind of elaborate joke. You're saying you're aliens? We prefer the term interstellar researchers, Alina said with a slight smile. But, yes, essentially. We've been living among humans, observing and learning for decades. Maya pulled her hand away from Alina's and looked at Alex. This is crazy. You're both crazy if you think I'm going to believe this. But even as she said it, Maya's mind was racing through all the strange things she had noticed about Alex. His unusual way of explaining concepts, his ability to predict events, his careful observation of human behavior, the way he sometimes seemed confused by social situations that were natural to everyone else. I know it sounds impossible, Alex said, his voice pleading. But think about it, Maya. Haven't you noticed that I'm different? Haven't you wondered why I always seem to know things I shouldn't know? Maya wanted to deny it, but she couldn't. All those little mysteries that had been building up for months suddenly made sense in a terrifying new way. Even if that's true, Maya said, her voice shaking, what does it have to do with me? Why are you telling me this? Alina and Alex exchanged another one of their meaningful looks, and Maya realized that they still hadn't gotten to the most important part of whatever they were trying to tell her. Maya, Alina said gently. The reason I invited you here tonight, the reason I've been asking you all these questions, is because you're not entirely human either. The world seemed to stop spinning. Maya felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. What did you just say? Your grandmother, Alina continued, was part of an earlier generation of our people who came to Earth. They were tasked with integrating more completely into human society, and many of them chose to stay and start families with humans. Shook her head violently. No, that's not possible. I know my grandmother. She was born in Ohio. She worked as a teacher her whole life. She did work as a teacher, Alina agreed. And she did live in Ohio. But before that, she lived somewhere else entirely, somewhere much further away than you can imagine. Maya felt like she was drowning. Everything she thought she knew about herself, about her family, about reality itself, was falling apart. You're lying. This is all some kind of sick joke. Alex reached across the table toward her, but Maya pulled away. Maya, please. I know this is overwhelming, but it explains so much. It explains why you understand physics. Concepts so easily. It explains your dreams. It explains why you and I connected so quickly when we first met. People from our world, Alina added. We recognize each other on an instinctive level. Alex was drawn to you because part of him knew what you were, even before his conscious mind understood it. Maya stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. I need to leave. This is insane. You're both insane. Maya, wait, Alina said, rising from her seat. I know this is a shock, but running away won't change the truth about who you are. I know who I am, Maya shouted. I'm Maya Johnson from Springfield. My parents are accountants. My grandmother taught third grade for 40 years. I'm studying physics at the university. That's who I am. Alina nodded calmly. All of that is true, but it's not the complete truth. Your human life is real, Maya. Your human family loves you, and your human experiences have shaped you. But you also carry genetic material from my world, and that part of you has been dormant until now. Dormant, Maya repeated, the word catching in her throat. The dreams, the advanced understanding of complex concepts, the feeling of searching for something you can't name, Alex explained. Those are all signs that your other heritage is starting to awaken. Maya sank back into her chair, feeling overwhelmed. Even if any of this was true, which it's not, why are you telling me? What do you want from me? Lena sat back down and looked directly into Maya's eyes. We don't want anything from you, Maya. We're offering you something. It's a chance to understand who you really are. The chance to develop abilities that have been sleeping inside you your whole life. The chance to connect with a part of yourself that you've been missing without even knowing it. What kind of abilities? Maya asked, hating herself for being curious. Alex smiled for the first time since the conversation had started. Enhanced. Intuition, advanced problem-solving capabilities, the ability to sense things about people and situations that others miss. You've already been using some of these abilities without realizing it. Maya thought about all the times she had known things without understanding how she knew them. It's the way she could sense Alex's moods before he expressed them. The way she sometimes knew the answers to test questions before she had consciously worked through the problems. This is too much, Maya said, putting her head in her hands. I can't process this. You don't have to decide anything tonight, Alina said softly. But Maya, I want you to understand something important. Whether you choose to explore this part of your heritage or not, you are still you. You're still the same person who became friends with Alex, who works hard in her classes, who cares about the people around her. Learning about your origins doesn't erase the life you've already built. Maya looked up at Alina, then at Alex. These people, or beings, or whatever they were, had just turned her entire understanding of reality upside down. But strange as it seemed, she could feel something inside herself responding to their words. Some part of her that had been quiet her whole life was suddenly paying attention. If this is all true, Maya said slowly, if I really am part, whatever you are, ... what happens now? Alina smiled, and this time Maya could see genuine warmth in her expression. Now, my dear Maya, you get to choose what comes next. But whatever you decide, you'll never have to face it alone. Maya looked at Alex, who nodded encouragingly. Despite everything that had just happened, despite learning that her best friend wasn't even human, she could see that his care for her was completely real. "I need time to think," Maya said finally. "Of course," Alina replied. "Take all the time you need. But Maya, before you go, there's one more thing I want to give you." Alina reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device that looked like a smooth, dark stone. "This will help you access some of your dormant memories and abilities, but only if you choose to use it. You can keep it, ignore it, or throw it away. The choice is entirely yours." Maya stared at the object in Elena's palm. It looked innocent enough, but she had the feeling that taking it would mean crossing a line that she could never uncross. Still, she found herself reaching out and picking up the device. It felt warm in her hand, and for just a moment Maya could. I swear she heard something like music playing very softly in her mind. "What do I do with it?" she asked. "When you're ready," Alina said, "you'll know." Maya stood up, slipping the device into her pocket. Her legs felt unsteady, and her head was spinning with everything she had just learned. "I should go home," she said. Alex walked her to the door, his expression full of worry. "Maya, are you going to be okay?" Maya looked at him. This person she had thought she knew, but who had turned out to be something completely beyond her understanding. The drive back to campus was the longest 30 minutes of Maya's life. Her hands gripped the steering wheel as she tried to process everything that had just happened. The small device Alina had given her sat in her pocket, and she could swear it was getting warmer as the minutes passed. Maya's mind kept replaying the conversation over and over again. Aliens, her grandmother, genetic memories, dormant abilities. It all sounded like something from a science fiction movie, not real life. But deep down, in a place she had never acknowledged before, something was telling her that every word Alina had spoken was true. When she finally reached her dorm room, Maya sat on her bed and pulled out the strange device. Under the light of her desk lamp, it looked even more mysterious. The surface was perfectly smooth, like polished stone, but it seemed to shift color slightly as she turned it in her hands. Dark blue, then purple, then back to black. Maya set it on her nightstand and tried to go to sleep, but her mind wouldn't stop racing. Every strange dream she had ever had suddenly felt significant. Every moment when she had understood something, without being taught, every time she had sensed things about people that she shouldn't have known, every feeling of not quite belonging in the world around her. For 3 days, Maya avoided Alex at school. She would see him in the hallway and quickly duck into classrooms or take different routes to her classes. She knew he was worried about her. She needed time to think without his intense eyes watching her every reaction. On the 4th day, Maya was sitting alone in the library when Alex finally found her. He approached her table slowly, like he was afraid she might run away again. "Can I sit down?" he asked quietly. Maya nodded. Not trusting herself to speak, Alex sat across from her and waited patiently while Maya stared at her textbook without actually reading it. "I've been thinking," Maya finally said, not looking up from the page, "about what your mother told me." "And," Alex prompted gently, "the dreams I've been having since I was little," Maya continued, "they're getting stronger, more vivid. And I keep waking up with this feeling like I'm remembering something important, but I can't quite hold on to it." Alex leaned forward. "That's normal." Lena said that once the awakening process begins, the memories start coming back gradually. Maya finally looked at him. "So you really believe all of this? That I'm part alien or whatever?" "I believed it since the first day we met," Alex said. "There was something about you that felt familiar, like coming home after a long trip. I didn't understand it at first, but now it makes perfect sense." Maya pulled the device out of her backpack and placed it on the table between them. "Your mother gave me this. She said it would help me access my abilities, but only if I choose to use it." Alex stared at the object with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Have you tried it yet?" "I'm scared to," Maya admitted. "What if using it changes me into someone I don't recognize? What if I lose the parts of myself that are human?" Alex reached across the table and gently covered her hand with his. "Maya, listen to me. You're not going to lose yourself. Just going to become more yourself, more complete. How can you be so sure? Because I've watched you for months, Alex said. The person you are, your kindness, your curiosity, your determination to help people, that's not going to change. Those qualities come from your heart, not from your DNA. Maya looked down at their joined hands. Alex's skin was still cooler than normal human temperature, but his touch was comforting. What was it like for you? She asked. Growing up knowing what you were? Alex considered the question carefully, confusing sometimes. I always felt like I was playing a role, trying to fit in with humans while knowing I was different. But I also felt lucky to have Alina to guide me. She made sure I understood both sides of my heritage. And now I feel like I finally found someone who understands what it's like to be caught between two worlds, Alex said, squeezing her hand gently. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. I'm terrified, Alex. What if I use this thing and find out I don't like who I really am? Then you deal with it one day at a time, Alex said. Just like humans do when they discover things about themselves they didn't expect. Maya, you don't have to do this alone. Alina and I will be here to help you through whatever comes next. Maya picked up the device and turned it over in her free hand. What exactly will happen if I use it? Alina told me it varies from person to person, Alex explained. For some people, it just enhances abilities they already have. For others, it unlocks completely new ways of seeing and understanding the world. But it's not like flipping a switch. It's more like opening a door that you can walk through at your own pace. Maya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she saw Alex watching her with an expression of hope mixed with patience. I do this, Maya said. Slowly, and if it changes how I see everything, will you help me figure out what it all means? Every step of the way, Alex promised. Maya looked around the library. At all the other students studying and worrying about normal college problems like tests and papers and weekend plans. Part of her wanted to stay in that world, where the biggest concern was whether she would pass her physics exam. But another part of her, part that was getting stronger every day, was tired of feeling like she was only living half a life. Tired of searching for something without knowing what she was looking for. Tired of dreams that felt more real than her waking hours. Okay, Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to try it. Alex smiled, but his expression remained. Serious? Are you sure? There's no pressure, Maya. You can take more time if you need it. Maya shook her head. I've been taking time my whole life. I'm ready to know who I really am. She held the device in her palm and looked at it closely. What do I do? Lena said. You just need to focus on it and ask it to show you the truth, Alex said. Your genetic memory will do the rest. Maya closed her eyes and concentrated on the warm weight of the device in her hand. Show me, she whispered. Show me who I really am. At first nothing happened. Then, gradually, Maya began to feel a strange, tingling sensation spreading from her palm up her arm. The tingling became a warm feeling that seemed to flow through her entire body, and suddenly, images began flashing through her mind. She saw landscapes with purple skies and silver trees. She saw buildings that seemed to grow from the ground like living things. She saw people who looked almost human, but moved with a grace and purpose that was entirely different from anything she had ever witnessed. And then she saw her grandmother. But not as the elderly woman Maya remembered. She saw her grandmother as a young woman, standing in a field under alien stars, saying goodbye to people who looked just like Alina and Alex. Maya felt tears streaming down her face as more memories flooded through her consciousness. Memories of knowledge and abilities that had been sleeping in her genes for decades. Memories of a world that felt more like home than anywhere she had ever been. When the visions finally stopped, Maya opened her eyes and found Alex watching her with concern. How do you feel? He asked softly. Maya wiped the tears from her cheeks and looked around the library. Everything looked the same, but somehow she could see more. She could sense the emotions of the other students around them. She could feel the connections between all living things in a way she never had before. Different, she said finally, but also more like myself than I've ever felt. Alex smiled with relief. And you're still Maya. You're still my friend who helps me understand human behavior and makes terrible jokes during study sessions. Maya laughed and was surprised to hear that her laugh sounded exactly the same as it always had. I'm still me, just ... more. So what happens now? Alex asked. Maya looked at him, this person who had started as a mysterious classmate and had become her guide into a larger universe than she had ever imagined. Now I learn, she said. I learn about where I come from, what I can do, and how to use these abilities to help people, and I keep being a college student who happens to have the most unusual study partner in the world. Alex grinned. I think that sounds perfect. As they gathered their books and prepared to leave the library, Maya realized that her life hadn't ended when she learned the truth about herself. Instead, it felt like it was finally beginning. She had found the missing piece she had been searching for without knowing it. And more importantly, she had found people who understood what it meant to be caught between worlds. Walking across campus with Alex, Maya felt the device pulse gently in her pocket. And she knew that this was just the beginning of a journey that would take her places she had never dreamed possible. But whatever came next, she wouldn't have to face it alone. For the first time in her life, Maya felt truly complete.